When I first came to St. Lazarus Girls University, I had only one plan: to study hard and make my mother proud. She sold her wrappers to send me here. She told me, "Don't forget who you are." I didn't plan to mess up. I came with one nylon bag, two skirts, and a dream. No makeup, no flashy phone, just hope. For the first few weeks, I stayed focused. I read my books, went to class early. I sat in front row. I even prayed every night, asking God to help me. But hunger has a way of making you question everything. My soap finished, my sanitary pads ran out. I couldn't even afford handouts. I was drinking Gary while other girls were eating jollof rice and chicken. I wore rubber sandals while they rocked heels and expensive wigs. Then help came, rice and mods. Just like that, I said thank you. I didn't know that was how it started. Then came the girls with laughter and money, always beautiful, always bold. They had everything. They didn't suffer like I did. They said, "Just follow us out one night and just chill." I said no. Then one day, I followed them. Just once. After that, it became easier to say yes. It wasn't one big mistake, it was a series of small steps. One outing, one borrowed dress, one smile at a stranger, one secret. Before I knew it, I couldn't even recognize the old me anymore. I didn't come here to spoil. I came with good intentions. But good intentions don't fill your stomach. Now everything has to change. People looked at me like I'm the devil, but they don't know the story. So let me tell it from the beginning. Everything started the day Amaka's mother gave her an old Bible and hid her hand tightly. "Don't forget who you are," her mother said, tears already filling her eyes. Amaka didn't say much. She simply nodded so her mother wouldn't cry anymore. The bus park was crowded. People shouted from every direction. Hawkers carried pure water and granules, while smoke from roasted corn hung in the air. Amaka didn't turn around as the bus pulled away, but her mother stood there watching until it disappeared from sight. Don't forget, Amaka. But sometimes forgetting is easier than remembering. St. Lazarus Girls University was an all-girls school, but it looked like something from television. The buildings were beautiful, the girls wore expensive clothes, some spoke with foreign accents, others carried costly phones and walked around with long nails and designer bags. They moved like they had never worried about money a day in their lives. Amaka arrived with a nylon bag, one pair of shoes, and a heart full of hope. It was her first time leaving home for something this important. Her mother had borrowed money to pay her school fees. Everything else had been left in God's hands. The first week was difficult. Her skirt was longer than everyone else. Her English carried traces of village accents. Some girls laughed when she greeted lecturers. "Good afternoon, ma." Others looked at her as if she didn't belong there. They called her names: village girl, bush babe, local champion. Some laughed in her face, others waited until she walked away. But Amaka refused to let it break her spirit. She hadn't come to make friends, she had come to study. She sat in the front row during every lecture. She answered questions, spent hours in the library, and filled notebooks with detailed notes. Every night before sleeping, she prayed. Soon, students started calling her Sister Amaka, not because she was holy, because they were mocking her. She wore no makeup, she covered her hair, she rejected invitations that didn't involve church activities or academics. And she didn't care. She remained focused. Every Sunday, her mother called. "Are you eating well?" Amaka would smile and answer, "Yes, Mama." Even on days when all she had eaten was Gary, she never wanted her mother to worry. "A woman must be strong," her mother always said. "You are my crown." But strength cannot buy soap. It cannot buy food. It cannot buy handouts. Soon, Amaka's sanitary pads finished. Her pen got lost. She needed money for books, assignments, and photocopies. Whenever possible, her mother sent small amounts of money tucked inside brown envelopes, but it was never enough. At first, Amaka borrowed from classmates. Eventually, she stopped asking. Pride kept her silent. That was when Tina entered her life. Tina wasn't loud. She didn't need to be. Her presence spoke for her. Her clothes were always neat, her skin was smooth, her perfume announced her arrival before she stepped into the room. People respect her, and in some ways, they fear her too. She carried herself with the confidence of someone who understood how the world works. One afternoon, Amaka sat on her bed with her empty stomach. Tina walked into the room carrying a plate of jollof rice and grilled chicken. "Are you fasting or is hunger dealing with you?" Tina asked with a smile. Amaka smiled weakly. Her stomach had been growling since morning. Without another word, Tina placed the food and a cold bottle of malt beside her. "Pray first if you want, then eat." The first bite filled Amaka's mouth with flavor and her heart with shame. Tina never asked for anything in return. One week, she brought sanitary pads. The next week, she bought Amaka data. Then came lip gloss, body cream, recharge cards, and even money for photocopies. Slowly, Tina became someone Amaka depended on. Then came Gloria and Rena. They laughed loudly and told stories about rich uncles, expensive parties, lecturers who gave marks in exchange for favors. They wore short skirts and long eyelashes, and they never seemed to lack anything. At first, Amaka simply listened, then she laughed with them, then she started spending time with them in common room. Gossip became friendship, friendship became influence, influence became temptation. One evening, Gloria and Rena invited Amaka to join them for an outing. "Just come with us," Gloria said softly, as though she were inviting her to a prayer meeting. "It's not a big deal," Amaka shook her head. "I don't do that kind of thing." "Just come and see," Rena added. "You don't have to do anything, just enjoy yourself." Amaka refused. A few days later, they invited her again. She refused once more, but temptation rarely knocks only once. The following week, she followed them to a small birthday party on campus, just to see, nothing more. At least that was what she told herself. The week after that, she followed them outside the school gate. She didn't plan to. She simply found herself walking beside them, dressed in borrowed clothes and wearing borrowed confidence. They arrived at Mitra Lounge. The place was cool, quiet and expensive. Soft music floated through the air. Dim lights glowed from the corners. Men with tired eyes and heavy wallets sat at polished tables. Girls laughed, danced and drank, and disappeared into private rooms with strangers. Amaka stood still. She felt like she had stepped into another world. Gloria leaned closer and pointed toward a girl in a red dress, laughing beside an older man. "You see her?" Amaka nodded. "She paid her entire rent this week." "How?" Gloria smiled. "One night out, that's all it took." Amaka's stomach tightened. She didn't dance, she didn't drink, she didn't speak. She simply watched. On the ride back to school, Tina rested a hand on her shoulder. "You did well." Amaka looked at her. "Next time, smile more." Something inside her shifted. Not all at once, not dramatically, just a small movement. A crack in a wall she had spent years to build. The changes came slowly. One day she borrowed lipstick, another day she skipped fellowship. Soon she started paying more attention to her appearance. Her jeans became tighter, her skirts became shorter, her face seemed brighter. People began noticing her. Boys from nearby campuses looked twice when she passed. Even some female lecturers paid her unusual attention. Nobody forced her, nobody threatened her, nobody dragged her anywhere. They simply made the road easier. And when life is difficult, easy roads often look like blessings. By the end of the semester, Amaka was no longer the same girl who had arrived with one nylon bag and a Bible. She prayed less, she studied less, and she began depending on Tina more than she depended on herself. Still, she had not reached the end of the road. The next turn came unexpectedly. One afternoon, she received a message from Miss Judith, one of her lecturers. "Please see me in my office after class." Amaka wasn't sure why. She had never been in trouble. She attended lectures, she submitted assignments, she kept to herself. After class, she walked to the office and knocked. "Come in." The room was quiet. As the door closed behind her, the ticking of the wall clock seemed unusually loud. Miss Judith looked at her for several seconds before speaking. Then she smiled, slowly, strangely. "There's something about you, Amaka," she said, leaning back in her chair. "Something I like." Amaka didn't know how to respond. The smile on Miss Judy's face lingered longer than necessary, and for reasons she couldn't explain, it made her uncomfortable. When the meeting ended, Amaka didn't return directly to the hostel. Instead, she wandered across the school field, her slippers dragged softly through the grass. The evening breeze brushed against her face. The sun was setting. Students laughed in distance, yet all she could hear was Miss Judith's voice. "There's something about you, Amaka. Something I like." It wasn't what she had said, it was the way she had said it, as though she already knew how the story would end. Amaka stopped walking and looked toward the darkening sky. She tried to pray, but the words refused to come. For the first time in a long while, she felt completely lost. After that day, things began to change. At first, the changes were small. Miss Judy started paying more attention to Amaka during lectures. She praised her assignments, asked her about her well-being, and often called her into her office for conversations that had little to do with schoolwork. At first, Amaka felt honored. Only few students usually receive that kind of attention from a lecturer, but as the weeks passed, the attention became more personal. One afternoon, Miss Judith invited her to lunch at a small restaurant behind a bookshop near the campus. The food was good. The conversation was easy. Miss Judith spoke about ambition, success, and the importance of having people who believed in you. "You have potential, Amaka," she said. "A lot of it." Amaka lowered her eyes shyly. Nobody had spoken to her like that before. Nobody outside her family had looked at her as though she mattered. When the lunch ended, Miss Judith paid the bill without hesitation. "Thank you, Ma," Amaka said. Miss Judith smiled. "You don't have to thank me for everything." A few days later, another invitation came. This time, it was to her house. "I just want to help you get ahead," Miss Judith said. "There are things I can teach you." Amaka hesitated, but she eventually agreed. The house was beautiful, clean, quiet. The air smelled faintly of lemon and vanilla. Everything inside seemed carefully arranged. Amaka sat nervously on a cushioned chair while Miss Judith brought juice and biscuits. For a while, they talked about ordinary things like school, family, exams, stress. Then gradually the conversation slowed. The room grew quieter, the silence felt heavier. Miss Judith moved closer, not enough to alarm her, just enough to make her aware of it. Then she gently placed a hand on Amaka's knee. Amaka froze, her heartbeats quickened. She didn't move, she didn't speak, she barely breathed. "You are special, Amaka," Miss Judith said softly. "You just don't know it yet." The hand remained there, not aggressive, not forceful, but deliberate, long enough to send a message, long enough to blur a boundary. When Amaka finally left the house, the world outside felt strange. The streets looked familiar, yet distant. She walked slowly as if part of her had been left behind. That night, she laid awake staring at the ceiling. Questions crowded her mind, questions she didn't want to answer, questions she couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, things were changing among Tina, Gloria, and Rena as well. Their conversation became quieter whenever other people were around. Sometimes they exchanged looks that seemed to carry hidden meanings. Other times they laughed about things Amaka didn't understand. It felt as though they belonged to a world she had only begun to glimpse. One evening, the four girls sat together in the common room painting their nails. The atmosphere was relaxed. Music played softly from someone's phone. Then Gloria suddenly asked a question. "Have you ever kissed a girl before?" Amaka looked up immediately. "What kind of question is that?" Gloria burst into laughter. "Relax, I'm just asking." Rena grinned. "Most girls experiment at least once." Amaka frowned. "Not me. That's what they all say at first," Gloria replied. The others laughed. Amaka tried to laugh too, but something about the conversation unsettled her. Later that night, while they were walking back to the hostel, Tina leaned toward her and kissed her lightly on the cheek. It happened so quickly that Amaka barely had time to react. She stopped walking. Tina simply smiled and continued moving. Amaka followed in silence. She told herself it meant nothing. Yet she thought about it long after she went to bed. Mid-semester arrived with pressure from every direction. Assignment piled up, exams approached, money became scarce again. Her mother's call became less frequent. The little financial support she received barely covered her needs. Her shoes were beginning to wear out. Her toiletries were almost finished. Everything felt heavy. One afternoon, after a particular difficult examination, Tina handed her a cigarette. "Just take this one puff," Tina said. "It helps." Amaka stared at it. "I don't smoke." "Neither did I once." Gloria laughed. "Try it." After a moment's hesitation, Amaka accepted it. She inhaled. Immediately, she began coughing. The others laughed. Even Amaka found herself laughing between coughs. But something surprised her. For the first time that day, she felt lighter. Not happier, just lighter. As though the weight pressing against her chest had loosened slightly. After that, smoking became easier. One puff became several. Several became a habit. Most nights they sat behind the hostel beneath the darkness, passing cigarettes between themselves while soft music played nearby. They talked about dreams, regrets, family problems, relationships, things they would never dare discuss in daylight. One night, Rena exhaled a stream of smoke and said quietly, "This school doesn't care how holy you are." The others listened. "It only respects people who know how to survive." Nobody responded immediately, but Amaka understood exactly what she meant. For the first time, she wasn't sure whether she agreed with it or not. The next time Miss Judith called, Amaka didn't refuse. She told herself it was just a visit, nothing more. But deep down, she knew things had already changed. When she arrived at the house that evening, the atmosphere felt different. The curtains were drawn. Soft music played in the background. The lights were dim, casting long shadows across the room. A sweet scent drifted through the air from a candle burning on a nearby table. Miss Judith welcomed her warmly. "You looked tired," she said. "It's been a stressful week." Amaka managed a small smile. "It has, actually." Miss Judith sat beside her, not too close, not too far. Close enough for Amaka to feel her presence. For a while, they talked about school, then the conversation slowed. Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable silence, the kind that seems to invite something more. Miss Judith reached for Amaka's hand. Her touch was gentle. "Why do you always look so tense?" she asked softly. Amaka looked away. "I don't know. You don't have to carry everything alone." Amaka swallowed. Nobody had said those words to her before. Not like this, not with such certainty. Miss Judith squeezed her hand slightly. "You are safe here." The words lingered in the room. Safe. It was a word Amaka desperately wanted to believe. The rest of the evening passed quietly. There were no dramatic moments, no grand declarations, only small gestures. A hand resting a little too long, a look that carried more meaning than words, moments that blurred lines neither of them only discussed. When Amaka returned to the hostel, she felt strange. Part of her wanted to stay away, another part wanted to return. The confusion exhausted her. She could no longer tell where comfort ended and dependence began. Days passed, weeks passed, then weeks, then weeks, then weeks. The distance between the old Amaka and the new one continued to grow. She stopped attending fellowship regularly. Sometimes she skipped it entirely. The Bible her mother had given her remained untouched beneath her pillow. Assignments that once received her full attention were not completed at the last minute. Her grades began to slip, not enough to raise alarm, but enough for her to notice. One night in the hostel, Rena rolled over on her bed and looked at Amaka. "You know," she said, "most of us started like this." Amaka glanced at her. "Started like what?" Rena smiled faintly, confused. Nobody spoke for a moment. Then she added, "You think you're the only one trying to figure things out?" Amaka didn't answer. She already knew she wasn't. Over time, she had noticed things. Tina and Gloria disappearing together for long periods, conversations that stopped whenever someone entered the room, looks that lasted longer than ordinary friendship required, late night whispers behind locked doors. At first, those things had shocked her, Now, they barely surprised her. It felt as though she had crossed into a hidden world that existed alongside the ordinary one. A world full of secrets. A world few people acknowledge openly. A world many people pretended not to see. Sometimes it frightened her, other times it felt strangely comforting. That realization scared her most of all. Then, when examination results were released, Amaka passed, not brilliantly, not disastrously, just enough to move forward, enough to convince herself that everything will still be under control. But she knew better. Nothing felt normal anymore. She had changed. Her appearance reflected it. Her clothes became more fashionable, her jeans tighter, her lips glossed shinier. She carried herself with a confidence she had never possessed before. People noticed. Compliments came more often. Attention followed wherever she went to. Yet, beneath the surface, something remained unsettled. She smiled more, but the smiles rarely reached her eyes. She laughed louder, but the laughter felt hollow. At night, when the hostel became quiet, she often stared at the ceiling and wondered when everything had started slipping away. Then one afternoon, her phone rang. It was a call from home. The moment she heard her auntie's voice, her stomach tightened. "Amaka," her auntie said quickly, "your mother collapsed in church." The words struck her like a hammer. "What?" "High blood pressure. She's at the hospital now." Amaka's heart began to race. "Is she okay?" "She's awake, but you should come." The next morning, Amaka traveled home. The journey felt endless. Every mile filled her with guilt she couldn't explain. When she finally arrived at the hospital, she barely recognized her mother. A strong woman who had sacrificed everything for her looked smaller than she remembered. So fragile, tired. For a moment, Amaka simply stood there. Then her mother opened her eyes. When she saw her daughter, she smiled. "My daughter." The words were barely above a whisper. Amaka rushed forward and took her hand. Tears filled her eyes immediately. She couldn't stop them. Her mother squeezed her fingers weakly. "You have grown thinner." Despite everything, they both laughed softly. For a while, neither of them spoke. They simply sat together, mother and daughter, the way they always had. Before Amaka left the hospital, 2 days later, her mother hid her hand tightly. There was seriousness in her eyes, a quiet concern. "Are you still reading your Bible?" she asked. The question hit harder than Amaka expected. She lowered her gaze. She couldn't lie. Not to her mother. Not now. So she said nothing. The silence answered for her. Her mother's expression softened. She didn't scold her. She didn't lecture her. She simply squeezed her hand again. And somehow, that hurt even more. When Amaka returned to school, everything felt different. The campus looked the same. The lecture halls were still crowded. Students still laughed in groups. Life continued as if nothing had happened, but something inside her had shifted. She couldn't explain it. The visit home lingered in her mind, her mother's weak smile, the hospital smell, the question she couldn't answer. "Are you still reading your Bible?" Back in her hostel room, Amaka dropped her bag and sat quietly on the edge of the bed. The room was empty. For a long time, she simply stared at the wall. And then her eyes drifted to the Bible beneath her pillow. Slowly, she reached for it. The cover was still clean, almost new. She turned it over in her hands before opening it. A folded note slipped out and landed on her lap. Frowning, she unfolded it. The handwriting was unmistakable. Her mother's. "God sees you even when the world doesn't." Amaka read the sentence once, then again and again and again. She sat there for several minutes, staring at the words. She wanted to cry. She wanted to pray. She wanted to feel something. Instead, she simply closed the Bible and placed it beside her. Sometimes, breathing is the only thing a person can manage. For a few days, life moved quietly. Classes continued. Assignments came and went. Students worried about tests and attendance. Nothing seemed unusual. Then the video appeared. It started as a rumor. A whisper passed from one hostel room to another. A message forwarded from one phone to the next. Nobody knew exactly where it came from. Nobody knew who had uploaded it. But by evening, everyone was talking about it. A blurry clip, less than a minute long, The quality was poor, the faces were not completely clear, yet the voices were unmistakable. A woman laughed softly. Then came a whisper. A hand moved across someone's thigh. A brief kiss. Silence, that was all. But it was enough. By the next morning, the video had spread across the entire campus. Every WhatsApp group, every hostel blog, every corner of the university, and everyone knew who the woman in the video was. Miss Judith. Nobody mentioned names openly. Nobody needed to. Students connected the dots, the piece themselves. At breakfast, conversation stopped whenever Amaka walked past. At lectures, people glanced at her before quickly looking away. Some stared openly, others pretended not to. The cafeteria became unbearable. One afternoon, Amaka sat alone with a plate of rice she could barely eat. The food tasted like dust. Her hands trembled slightly. The heat outside was intense, yet she felt cold. Across the room, Tina, Gloria, and Rena sat together. They were unusually quiet. Nobody laughed, nobody joked. Fear had settled all over them. That evening, Gloria entered the hostel room and locked the door behind her. The click echoed through the silence. "Who recorded it?" she asked. Amaka looked up. "What? The video?" "I don't know. Somebody was there." Gloria's voice was sharp. "Somebody filmed it." "It wasn't me." Gloria stared at her. "It wasn't Rena." The room grew still. "It wasn't Tina." Nobody spoke. Then Gloria shook her head. "You think you're the only one involved?" Amaka frowned. "What do you mean?" Gloria laughed bitterly. "We have all been there." The words landed heavily. Amaka's stomach tightened. Gloria folded her arms. "That's how the cycle works." The room felt smaller, hotter, more difficult to breathe in. Then Gloria pointed towards her. "But somehow you are the one at the center of the fire." Before Amaka could reply, Gloria turned away. Neither of them spoke again that night. The university administration reacted quickly. Within days, Miss Judith was suspended. An investigation panel was established. Official memos were sent to students and staff. The administration encouraged anyone with information about inappropriate relationships between lecturers and students to come forward. Confidentiality was promised. For the first time, people started talking openly. Anonymous letter appeared, screenshots surfaced, old messages were shared, stories that had lived in whispers suddenly became public. The secret circle was no longer secret, and once secrets are exposed, they rarely stay controlled. Rena was the first to leave. One morning, students woke up to find her bed empty. Her belongings were gone. No goodbye, no explanation. Rumors spread quickly. Some said her parents had withdrawn her from school. Others claimed she left voluntarily. Nobody knew the truth. 2 days later, Gloria left as well. Her father arrived during visiting hours. His voice carried across the hostel corridor. "Let's go." Gloria didn't argue. She followed him silently, head lowered, eyes fixed on ground. After that, only Tina remained. The hostel felt emptier, quieter, lonelier. Amaka noticed every stare, every whisper, every sudden silence. When she entered a room, the fellowship girls stopped greeting her. Some students slipped anonymous notes under her door. "Sister Sodom," "Shame to womanhood," "Repent." Each message cut a little deeper. No official punishment was given to her. The university never suspended her. But social exile can be harsher than any formal punishment. She felt alone, completely alone. One night, Tina entered the room and sat beside her. For a while, neither of them spoke anything. Then Tina broke the silence. "I liked it." Amaka turned toward her. Tina stared at the floor. The attention. Her voice was quiet. "The gifts." A pause. "The feeling that somebody actually saw me." Amaka listened. "I liked all of it." Tina swallowed hard. "But this?" She shook her head. "The mess, I never wanted this." Her voice cracked. Tears filled her eyes. For the first time since meeting her, Amaka saw Tina cry. Not the confident Tina, not the fearless Tina everyone admired, just a tired girl. "I'm exhausted," Tina whispered. "So tired." A few minutes later, she stood and left. Amaka watched the door close behind her. She didn't see Tina again for several days. Outside, the university tried to move forward. New policies were announced, counselors were brought in, seminars were organized, but beneath all the official statements, everyone knew the truth. Some students carried wounds nobody could talk about. Some lecturers had crossed boundaries they should never have crossed, and many people had spent years pretending not to notice. Weeks passed. The campus slowly returned to normal. Students found new things to talk about. New rumors replaced old ones. The scandals pushed the previous ones into the background. That was how university life worked. People moved on, but Amaka couldn't. The silence inside her remained. Every morning she attended lectures. Every afternoon she completed assignments. Every evening she returned to her room. From the outside, everything looked fine. Inside, she felt hollow. One day, she stood in front of her mirror and barely recognized the person staring back at her. The shiny lip gloss was gone. The expensive hairstyle were gone. The confidence she had worn like a mask was gone too. All that remained was a tired young woman trying to understand how she had drifted so far from herself. She thought about the girl who had arrived at St. Lazarus Girls University carrying one nylon bag and a head full of dreams. That girl had wanted only two things: to succeed and to make her mother proud. Somewhere along the way, the road had become blurred and need became independence. Dependence became compromise. Compromise became choices she had never imagined making. For a long time, Amaka blamed everyone else. She blamed poverty. She blamed loneliness. She blamed Tina. She blamed Miss Judith. She blamed the university. But eventually, she understood that the truth was more complicated. People had influenced her. People had opened doors. People had made certain paths easier to walk. But she had still taken the steps herself. Accepting that truth hurts. Yet, it has also brought a strange kind of freedom. Because if she had played a part in losing herself, perhaps she could also play a part in finding herself again. One evening, her phone rang. It was her mother. Amaka answered immediately. "Hello ma, my daughter." The familiar voice softened something inside her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then her mother asked the question she always asked. "Are you okay?" Amaka opened her mouth. The usual answer waited there. "Yes, mama, I'm fine." But this time, the words refused to come. Instead, tears filled her eyes. Her mother heard the silence. "Amaka, I'm tired, mama." The confession slipped out before she could stop it. There was a pause, then another. When her mother finally spoke, her voice was gentle. "Tired people rest." Amaka wiped her eyes. "What if rest isn't enough? Then you stand again." The answer was simple, typical of her mother. "But what if I have made mistakes?" Her mother's voice softened even more. "My daughter, every human being makes mistakes." Amaka closed her eyes. The tears came freely now. "What if they are serious mistakes? Then you learn from them." The line remained quiet for a few seconds. Then her mother added, "You are not the worst thing you have ever done." Amaka pressed the phone tightly against her ear. "I heard things," her mother continued. "People talk." Amaka's stomach tightened. "But I trust you." The words broke something opened inside her. Not because she deserved them, not because she had earned them, but because they were given freely. "Just remember who you are, Amaka." The sentence felt familiar. A cycle closing. The same words spoke at the bus park on the day she left home. Not who people say you are. A pause. Not who your mistakes say you are. Another pause. But who God says you are. After the call ended, Amaka sat quietly for a long time. Then she reached for the Bible. The same Bible her mother had placed in her hands months earlier. The same Bible that had remained untouched beneath her pillow. She opened it. The note was still there. "God sees you even when the world doesn't." This time, she didn't close it immediately. She turned the pages, not searching for a miracle, not expecting a voice from heaven, just reading one verse, then another, and another. The words didn't solve everything. The pain didn't disappear. The consequences didn't vanish overnight. But for the first time in months, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Peace. Small, fragile, but real. Outside life continued. Students hurried across campuses. Lecturers prepared lessons. Cars passed through the university gates. The world kept moving, and so did Amaka. Not perfectly, not dramatically, just one step at a time. The way healing often happens. Years later, people would remember the scandal. Some would remember the rumors. Others would remember the names. But Amaka would remember something different. She would remember hunger, loneliness, temptation, fear, the desperate desire to belong, and she will remember that survival is not always about escaping the fire. Sometimes survival means walking through it and refusing to let it consume who you are. She did not come out untouched, she did not come out innocent, she did not come out unchanged, but she came out wiser, she came out stronger. Most importantly, she came out alive. And sometimes that is where a new beginning starts. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this story, guys, kindly subscribe to this channel so that you will get more interesting and fascinating stories like this. Thank you and see you in my next story. Bye.